after the war, I decided to, of course, to I had some opportunities for some fine positions besides being retained in the Army, but I decided to go into business where I knew that I felt surely would be a successful business. That would be an international business. And to that end, I packed my bags and I went up to New York City. And much to my surprise, of course, I hadn't been in America for 4 years, so there wasn't a single office space, and there wasn't any telephones. They couldn't do anything, couldn't name them and so forth. But fortunately, through friends, I did get an office space and get a phone. Now all I had to do was have a name, so I applied to the state for names, and it came back and said rejected. It was already taken. After 3 or 4 times of trying this way, I couldn't get any names. And sitting in my office was a chap by the name of Leonard and another man by the name of Harry, and I was there. So I thought, I've got to get a name. So I took the first 2 letters of each of us, Lehara, Lehara. So I said, Lehara Corporation has got to be, there's no one would have a name like that. Because I couldn't start, I couldn't get cards printed, I couldn't get letterheads, I couldn't tell I had a name. So I shot it into New York, and they took their time getting it back to me, of course. And it was accepted. That's where I got the name Lehara. Lehara Corporation, right?
Lehara Corporation. That's the name you stuck with?
That's the name I stuck with. And
does it still exist, Lehara Corporation?
I think so, because no, as a corporation, that does not exist. I brought it out here with me to Grand Rapids when I merged it with the the Werner Company, the Werner Machinery Company. We called it the Werner Lehara Company.
Werner Lehara.
Werner Lehara, yes. And we did business for some years under that name. That name, I think, still does exist in certain parts because the British eventually bought the company, and they kept they have facilities down in the south, and they kept the name for some time. I've lost track of it now. I have no idea.
Do you remember what year the British bought the company? They bought Werner Lehara?
Yes, they did. Yeah, I believe it was about in the late 70s or early 80s. I finally sold the company. I sold the company to the British.
But you didn't retire then, did you? No, you kept working.
Oh, I had lots of things going on. Yes, I had other companies. I had a company in New York. I still maintain a company in New York and New Jersey. I had a company in Florida. I had a company in another company, a couple of other places. For instance, I bought the one of the companies that was very well known in the South for years and years was Jack's Cookie Company. That was known in the South, west of, southeast and Midwest in the South was Jack's Cookie Company, very famous, out of Tampa, Florida. It's an old company, well known, many employees, over 300 some employees. I bought that company and kept it for some years. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, Ralph, you have lived such a remarkable life. You have done so many interesting things. You've led in a number of different areas. We've spoken about your leadership in journalism and in the military and in the New Deal with the CCC, and then you went on to a business career. You became a leader in your church. You became a leader philanthropically here in West Michigan. And it's often been remarked that your generation was an exceptional generation. And as you know, Tom Brokaw labeled it the greatest generation. Do you think that your generation was exceptional compared to other generations?
I think that it was a generation in which there were great opportunities. And I think that they were a generation that had to take advantage of those opportunities, and they did. I suppose opportunities exist today, but it seems to me that that probably there were more of us out at that time who knew that we had to make a go of it, and we worked hard, and we didn't think in terms of hours. I remember very well when I was a city editor first of the newspaper in Grand Rapids. we didn't at that time have an NRA or limited hours, for instance. It was not unusual for reporters to have to work 6 days a week, maybe 12 hours a day, or if necessary, 7 days a week. And that was the mode of the people at that time. Hard work, industrious, willing, and that's the way we were. We expected to live that life, which was probably today considered pretty horrible, but we didn't even mind it. I think there was a greater deal of respect for your fellow man, and you had a sense of integrity that you don't seem to have today. The falsehoods and the things that are not so that are being presented today. Even your life was quite different. You never locked your door at night into your home. You didn't have to worry. You didn't fear about things. Today, it seems that life is pretty shallow in many people's, in many areas that didn't exist. We learned to take care of each other when things were difficult, and they were very, very, very difficult during the Depression. But somehow, even though there was no unemployment, there was no compensation or retirements going on, people helped each other. You did things together. If you didn't have it, you could go buy homes in the streets, for instance, nice homes. And in the back of those homes, everybody even had a garden of their own. They raised vegetables, they raised fruits, they did things by themselves, And it was a generation that we did not expect to be given handouts in any form whatsoever. We knew that you had to do it yourself, and if you did it yourself, it gave you the strength and the initiative by which you had to do it.
You also must see, though, the things that have remained constant about our country that are good between the 1930s and today. What do you think has been constant through your life?
It's the ability of our people to be innovative. And I think that we have done that. We've been a leader in so many things, electronics and so forth, that we have not lost that spirit. The spirit of entrepreneurship continues to exist. And a great deal of leadership is manifesting itself in some places, but not always in the proper places. But I think that these factors still exist today, and it's somewhat inherent in the spirit of the American people.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, you've been a great teacher in all the different capacities in which you've served this country and led and been an entrepreneur yourself. What is, by way of concluding our hour today, what would be your message to young people today to give them hope and to guide them?
Well, I would hope that they would, first of all, really get an education. It's very important that they have a good education. And they really do try to get themselves organized in a way that they think they're going to make the greatest contribution, not alone to themselves, but to their own community and to their country. And be faithful to your religious background if you have one. I think that you find the standards of organizations or whatever it may be that are high in principle, that they could pursue and follow them. Be active in your community. Be a contributor to many things, and do it with integrity and happiness.
And happiness.
Yeah.
I just gave a little talk on happiness. I'd like to compare notes with you. What makes for a good, happy life?
Well, you got me short on this, I'm afraid, didn't you? But I suppose if you're true to yourself and you're true to the principles by which you're going to live a good life, and there are many ways you can do that. You can do that through the contribution to your fellow man, or to your religion or to other factors of life. And if you do it honestly and sincerely, you'll find happiness.
Very good.